Hello Inklings, my name is Bianca and welcome back to Binks Thinks. I'd like to begin by showing respect to and acknowledging the Whadjuk Noongar people, elders past and present, the traditional owners and custodians of the land I am filming this video on today. Today I'm going to be filming 10 books that changed my life, and hopefully this will be part 1 and that I will read many more books in the future that will change my life in positive ways as well. These are all non-fiction books, so let's get started with number 1. The first book that changed my life is The Gabriel Method by John Gabriel. I first read this book in high school, and at the time I was really struggling with body image. I had eating disorders, I was a bit overweight, and I was really struggling mentally. One day my mom gave me this book to read and it changed my entire life. Basically, John Gabriel is a man who was very overweight for a very long time, and he couldn't figure out why until he stepped away from the food in versus food out thing and went more to the mind-body connection. Because as humans, we are pretty much programmed to behave in a certain way, and so are our bodies, and our bodies just want to protect us. And once my brain clicked and I understood that concept, life was just so much easier for me, and my relationship with food and my body changed completely. So whenever people bring up the topic of food, eating disorders, weight, I always recommend this book. It is so positive and it teaches you so many good habits. This book also introduced me to visualization and meditation. It is marketed as the revolutionary diet-free way to totally transform your body, but I also really think that it transforms your mind as well. Then the second book that changed my life was Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert. This is a memoir about a woman's journey after deciding that she wants to divorce her husband and do the things that she really wants to do to bring her joy. She wants to travel, she wants to learn new things. So in this, she travels to Italy, to India, and to Bali, and along the way she makes so many new friends. She finds a love for food, she finds her connection to spirituality and yoga, and as the title says, she finds love again with someone who is a lot better for who she is as a person. And overall, it really inspired me and made me want to seek out those types of moments of joy in my own life as well. There's also a movie which is quite well known. Julia Roberts plays the lead, and lots of women have read this book and wanted to go on their own journeys, so I'm sure I'm not alone. But I also really fell in love with Elizabeth Gilbert's writing in this book. And that also leads me on to book 3, which is Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. So in this book, she discusses ideas. This really helped me with my creativity, my writing, my blogging, just in general. The way she discusses ideas is really not for everyone, and I know some people really dislike it, but for me, it really resonated with me. It spoke about how ideas come to you and you should grasp onto them when they are with you, because if you don't, they might leave and find somebody else. Because I'm pretty sure we've all had those moments where you had a really cool idea for something, you kind of consider it, and then you don't really do anything about it, and then a couple months later you see that idea in the real world. And it's a really interesting phenomenon, and I actually really do believe in it. And overall, it's just a really helpful book. And it also introduced me to podcasts. So she also had a Big Magic podcast series where she would interview different types of creative people, lots of writers. And this is the first podcast I ever listened to. And it really made a big difference in my life. And it really motivated me in a lot of different small ways. Book number 4 is The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, and so many people in the self-development community have read this book and loved it. So basically the book is just kind of about taking time in the day to work on small little habits that will have a big effect on your life later on. The miracle morning is just kind of waking up 1 hour earlier and doing 6 things. And they go by the acronym called SAVERS. So number 1 is silence, so take a moment to meditate, spend some time in the quiet. A is for affirmations, having positive statements for your day, saying things that you want to do, want to achieve. Visualization is then visualizing your day and how you want it to go with images. E is for exercise, which we all really need at the start of the day to get us going. So I generally interpret that as just going for a dog walk or maybe doing some yoga. R is reading, and I personally like to read nonfiction in the morning when I do the miracle morning routine. And then S is scribing, and this is more like journaling or doing morning pages. So this concept really helped me to understand the importance of finding time in the day and like making time for the things that you want to do, because we all kind of go through life and it's easy to say, oh, I don't have time for that, maybe one day I'll start doing that. But the thing is, the someday and the one day will never really happen unless you make time for little things every day. Book number 5 is the Bullet Journal Method by Ryder Carroll. So this book is all about bullet journaling, written by the creator of the Bullet Journal Method. So I've been a bullet journaler for probably 5 years. I actually took a little break this year for a few months, but I'm back into it. And this book really helped me to understand the concept of bullet journaling more. The author is ADHD, and that's kind of why he developed the system. And throughout the book, he gives a lot of tips and tricks and different ways to more effectively use your bullet journal. And he also has a lot of examples from people who are quite popular in the bullet journal community and sharing some of their stories about how bullet journaling changed their life. And I can also honestly say that bullet journaling definitely changed my life in many positive ways. I was never really taught how to plan my days when I was in school. I never really needed to. I got good grades, but I was really disorganized as a person. And then when I got to university, I needed to figure things out. I had deadlines and I couldn't just do things in one day. I had a lot of homework, not a lot of set time that was managed by other people. I had a lot of free time that I needed to manage myself. And then when I came across bullet journaling, I really wanted to try it, and it has just stuck with me ever since. I don't think I will ever not have a bullet journal. Book number 6 is The Year of Less by Kate Flanders. I listened to the audiobook of this, and this is basically about a woman's journey in order to get out of debt. She stopped shopping as much as she did before and basically just lived a lot more frugally. And this book really resonated with me, and it made me realize that I never want to be in debt. Being in debt really scares me, and I know probably in future I might have to be for different reasons, but just in general, I don't ever want to live beyond my means and then have to pay other people for things instead of doing the things that I enjoy with my time. Overall, I really recommend this book if you feel like you have a shopping addiction, and I really quite did at the time. It was a comfort thing mostly, and I ended up buying a lot of things that I didn't really want. I wanted it in the moment, but then afterwards it wouldn't really make me happy. I still do that occasionally, but after reading that book, it did make me more mindful about the things that I purchased. Then soon after that, I read book 7, which is The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo. So I'm sure you have all heard about this book. It is very popular, so is the KonMari method. And basically, Marie Kondo recommends that in order to have a tidy household, there are a few steps that you need to follow. And people tend to really focus on the aspect of getting rid of things when that's not really the point. The main message from this book is actually to appreciate your belongings.
So yes, it starts off with doing a big declutter of your whole household, and she has certain steps of what she believes is the best categories to start with and then follow on with. I did this. I KonMari'd my belongings after I moved all of my things back into my room in South Africa from Dubai, and it made such a big impact on my mental health at the time. I was feeling really cluttered and overwhelmed. I had so many things because I needed things for the different countries, and then once I decluttered, I just felt a big release and a relief that I didn't have to travel to another country with so many things that didn't bring me joy. I was just holding on to them because I thought that I had to, or because one day I might need them. Another big thing that I really love about her philosophy is to appreciate your belongings always. So she does this thing where at the end of the day, when you come home, you take everything out of your handbag or your bag and put them in a little place so that you can just thank them for doing their job during the day. And then the next day you put the things that you need into your same handbag or perhaps a different one. Just little things like that, and it really made a big impact on how I view objects and the things that I own, and even the houses that I live in. Book 8 is Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari. And this book is exactly what it says. It's a brief history of humankind. And honestly, this book blew my mind. It is so interesting and insightful, and I learned so much about humanity and people and society, and I definitely think everybody in the world needs to read this book, and it might make you just a bit more compassionate towards other people, other cultures, other countries, and even to our ancestors. I can't explain it to you, you just have to read it to understand. Book number 9 is quite a recent read, and that is Atomic Habits by James Clear. So this is all about how to make habits, how to break bad habits. I've known a lot of these strategies before, but the way this author puts it all together really makes it easy. And he has little formulas for how to make habits and how to break bad ones. And when you look at how they overlap, it really makes a lot of sense. And it's called Atomic Habits because it really shows how tiny changes can make a huge difference. And it also emphasizes the mindset of systems over goals, which basically just means having a set system every day where you do small things. So for example, writing. If you write every day, you'll be a lot more successful in that journey compared to having the goal of I want to write a book. So I want to write a book sounds like a big goal. Not a lot of people do write books, and if you say that to yourself, you might not end up putting in any effort towards doing that because your goal doesn't tell you where to start. Whereas writing every day actually puts you in the chair in front of the computer or notebook and has you writing, and eventually you might end up writing one book or maybe even 20. Book number 10, the very last one. This is slightly different, and this one is I'd Rather Be Reading by Anne Bogle. So this book I really wanted to mention just because of how happy it made me as a bookworm to feel seen in this book. It is just a collection of different moments in life of a bookworm and people who love to read. Anne herself grew up with people around her really supporting her love of reading, family who reads, and overall it just made me want that for my future as well, to be surrounded by book lovers. And that's also why I love BookTube so much. This book also introduced me to Anne's podcast, What Should I Read Next?, which is such a fun podcast. Basically, she has guest speakers who come in and then they tell her about 3 books, one they loved, one they hated, and one that they are currently reading, and then she gives them book recommendations. And it is just like a fun, cozy, chatty time listening to people get book recommendations. And if you find someone that you kind of agree with, you might find a book recommendation too. And I did while I was listening to the podcast. So in between the time when I listened to the Big Magic podcast and the What Should I Read Next podcast, there was a huge gap. So I'm really thankful to this book for bringing me back to the podcast world, and also just for making me feel so warm and cozy about reading. that is the end. That was my list of my top 10 books that changed my life. Thank you so very much for watching. If you have a book that changed your life, please let me know down in the comments. And if you've read any of these books and if you love them too, let me know as well. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Keep thinking, Inklings. Bye!